Have you ever found yourself in that frantic, last-minute panic, trying to finish something you had weeks to do? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most universal and, honestly, most misunderstood parts of being human: procrastination. And here's a spoiler: it has absolutely nothing to do with being lazy. Ah, yes, the promise, that solemn vow we make to ourselves, usually around 3 a.m., exhausted but kind of triumphant after hitting send just under the wire. And we mean it, right? We mean it with every single fiber of our being. Sound familiar? Yeah, so why does it happen again and again? Are we just doomed to repeat this cycle forever? Is it some kind of deep character flaw? The answer is a huge, resounding no. This isn't a personal failure, you guys. It's actually a fascinating psychological puzzle, and we are about to solve it together. So, to really get to the bottom of this, let's look at a classic case. We'll call him Jim. Jim's story is the perfect example of procrastination in action. And if you just look at it from the outside, his behavior makes zero sense. So for six whole weeks, Jim avoids this 10-hour paper. He knows it's there, he knows he has to do it, but he just doesn't. And then, boom, with only 10 hours left on the clock, he suddenly transforms into this machine of productivity. He's stressed, he's exhausted, but he gets it done. And afterwards, he feels amazing, totally relieved, and he swears never again. It's this baffling cycle of doing nothing, followed by a burst of almost superhuman effort. And this is where things get really interesting. We always blame this kind of thing on a lack of willpower, right? But that just doesn't add up. Think about Jim's last-minute sprint. That took an insane amount of willpower and focus. So the problem isn't that he doesn't have any. The problem is that we're looking at motivation all wrong. To really crack this mystery, we need to understand this fundamental conflict that's always happening inside our brains. See, every time we face a task, there's this epic battle going on between the doing and the getting. Think about it like this. The act is the thing you have to do right now: writing the paper, dragging yourself to the gym. It's often tough, maybe even a little painful, but the result, well, that's the long-term good stuff we actually want: passing the class, being healthy. And here's the key: our brain treats these two things as completely separate, and a lot of the time they're in direct opposition. So you've got this internal battle raging: the immediate pain of the act versus the far-off, distant pleasure of the result. And in this fight, one side has a ridiculously powerful, totally secret weapon that, let's be honest, almost always wins. And here it is. This is the culprit. We all have this ancient automatic system running in the background of our minds. It's a system that doesn't care about your long-term goals. It doesn't care about your promises to yourself or your perfectly color-coded plans. It's called the pleasure unconscious, and its mission is brutally simple: find pleasure, avoid pain, and do it immediately. This is not your logical, rational thinking brain. This thing is a primal force, like an ancient operating system that's been running the show for millions of years. And believe me, it is pulling the strings. Its logic is basically binary. It scans the world for one of two things: something that feels good or something that feels bad. And then it just acts. It pushes you toward the good stuff and yanks you away from the bad. You cannot reason with it, you can't bribe it, it just does what it does. So how does this powerful system actually analyze a task? Well, it breaks it down using this simple 3-part code, and in a split second, it decides whether to hit the gas or slam on the brakes. Okay, so it weighs 3 things. First, the displeasure of just starting the task. You know, that feeling, that activation energy. Second, the dread of actually doing the task. And third, the excitement or anxiety about the consequences, which are way off in the future. Now, for the pleasure unconscious, those immediate negative feelings almost always feel heavier than the positive ones that are far away. And boom, there it is. That's the formula. Procrastination happens when the immediate pain of starting and doing the work is just stronger than the delayed gratification you'll get from the result. Your pleasure unconscious isn't being lazy. It's making a very logical, calculated decision to avoid discomfort right now. Okay, so if we can't just overpower this system with sheer willpower, what on earth are we supposed to do? Well, we outsmart it. You can't win a wrestling match with your pleasure unconscious, but you can learn its rules and use them to your advantage. It is time to hack your own brain. The first strategy, and honestly the most powerful one, is to speak its language. And its language has nothing to do with your thoughts. It's all about the physical world around you.
You just have to manipulate your environment to make the good habits super easy and the bad habits super hard.
So look at the before column. The video game is right there, the snacks are in the pantry. That's the easy path, right? The pleasure unconscious is always going to take the easy path. But now look at the after. You've introduced friction. You've jacked up the activation energy for the bad habit. By packing that video game away or charging your phone in another room, you're making procrastination physically difficult. And that is a language your ancient brain understands perfectly.
Now, for the next strategy. This one is a really cool mental shortcut for getting over that initial hurdle, that activation energy we just talked about that stops you from even starting. Okay, this is called the imagination trick, and it's wild. Instead of thinking about the whole huge dreaded task, you just isolate the very first tiniest physical movement needed, like literally just swinging your legs off the bed. Then you vividly imagine yourself doing just that one thing. And here's the magic part. You stop thinking about it, and very often your body will just do it, almost on its own. You're basically tricking your brain into starting the engine, bypassing all that mental resistance.
So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways here? Number 1, you are not lazy. Your behavior is being driven by an ancient part of your brain called the pleasure unconscious that just wants comfort right now. 2, procrastination is just that system trying to avoid the immediate pain of doing something. And 3, most importantly, you can't fight it head-on with willpower. You have to outsmart it by changing your world and using these clever little mental tricks. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. We're always taught that motivation is this big battle of willpower, a struggle we have to force ourselves through. But what if that's completely wrong? What if being productive and motivated isn't about fighting yourself at all, but about becoming a clever strategist who knows how to gently guide and outsmart your own powerful, ancient brain?